That's what it was.
Everybody, it is Professor Brian J. Ford. He is well, he's many things, actually. I'm just going to read some of the things that you've done, Brian. It is...
Oh, don't.
No, I have to. I'm forced to. You've investigated microbe intelligence, spontaneous human combustion, the way blood coagulates, microscope development, loads of other topics. You're a contributor to encyclopedias, science editor for Guinness World Records. You presented your own BBC show. You hosted Food for Thought on Channel 4. And... the thing I like most of all about Brian is Brian has an issue with experts, which is really my thing. Now, Brian has done an updated version of the Nonscience book from 1971. Did I pronounce that correctly, Brian? You schooled me yesterday.
Yes, you did. The Americans always say nonsense. I've got to tell you.
Yeah.
I had an American voice reading out manuscripts on Microsoft Word. And whenever I checked anything with the word, he'd always say, oh, non-science. Well, now it's changed to an English accent. It's rather refined. And he always says nonsense, which is the way I say, yeah, that's the original book. Ooh. 50 years ago it came out. And it had this ridiculously long title in order to remind people that one of the ways that experts manage to fool you is by using unnecessary long words.
Right. And we were talking about that yesterday. First of all, let me just introduce you to my co-host. This is Sean Ward. And
Morning, Sean.
Sean has just joined us this morning. He's our new addition this morning. So everybody is, well, sort of new. Yeah, so the original book came out in 1971. And one of the things that you said to me was that the original book was really prophetic in many respects. What do you mean by that? Well,
the original book, it was a satire, like the new version of it. And the original book said that it's all really well to sort of talk about people as experts, as though in some way they're wonderfully wise. But I could sense at that time, it's one of the reasons I've always been independent. Although I'm attached to a lot of bodies, I have always been self-employed. The only boss I've ever had is that subtle concatenation between the wife and the bank manager. And I could see that science was becoming commercialized.
Yes.
And a lot of the effort was going to people actually conning grant-giving committees into giving them money for pretty well pointless and lightweight research. Yeah. And that by using long words, they could confuse the public and hide up what they were really up to. And over the last 50 years, can you believe that, Sonia? Over the last 50 years, it's actually all come true. So the new book came out. It's still got, still got the original title, great big long title, and subtly named Nonscience Returns. So listen, everybody. My publisher wants me to say, dash out now, or go over to your laptop and immediately order it from Curtis Press. Or if you're a cheapskate and want it discounted, then order it from Amazon, which of course cuts back my royalty, but then at least you got the book. That's the important thing.
God, we do love a good flog. Hey, but the thing is, I must say, I do apologize to your publisher. I'm very sorry, Neil. I've just remembered I forgot to send you the URL. I do hope you found us. Now, so we had a good laugh yesterday, Brian, because you're basically saying a lot of things that I completely understand and agree with. And that is, this whole idea. One of the things in the comments, they're saying, so is Brian an expert on experts? Do not call Brian an expert. Okay, Brian does not like to be called an expert. And because honestly, experts have been given a pretty bad name over the last 50 years, haven't they, Brian?
Well, ever since the book came out, it teased the idea that an expert was actually somebody you might tease rather than somebody you might worship. And actually, this book almost reversed the meaning of the word expert. I mean, up until the book came out, people would say, oh, he's an expert. Now they tend to say, oh, he's an expert. And indeed, the word has become almost sardonic. But you see, the way that experts work is by taking something pretty slight and making it look terribly, terribly impressive, and by blinding the public with long words. I mean, if you go to the doctor and the doctor says to you, well, you've got a hell of a high temperature, but I have no idea why, you would come out and think, well, the doctor is useless, isn't he? But if the doctor says, you're suffering from idiopathic pyrexia, you'd come out and say, wow, that doctor's a genius. But idiopathic pyrexia means a high temperature, and I don't know why, but it says it in Greek, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and that is ridiculous. They're loving this. Jolly good old sport, says Darren. This man is brilliant. And that's the whole thing. What I love about what Brian is doing is really just cutting through the nonsense, because one of the things it is absolutely right, Brian. There is gatekeeping taking place. And it is this whole thing of, if we fool them with sort of these big words, then they will understand our world, and our world becomes very elitist. And it is an elitist world, isn't it?
Well, you've got this Professor Ferguson on COVID at the moment. You know, he was the one who immediately broke the rules.
Yeah.
And almost every forecast he ever done has been wrong. But
Yeah.
Imperial College, which has regularly got everything wrong about the future of COVID, they're always quoted because they're experts. They're at a university, so they must be right.
Yeah.
And it is a very dangerous trend. An awful lot of stuff now is getting past people because experts are just seeking massive grants and impressing the public. I'll give you one example of really a completely hoax area of science, and that is artificial intelligence. There is no intelligence in artificial intelligence. No intelligent machine has ever been built, nor is ever likely to be built. What we're seeing is digital automation. And everybody's sort of threatened by the fact that we're going to be expendable in a few years' time, and robots will take over because they're so much cleverer than us. And people say, but a robot can do things that no human can do. So can a stapler. Yeah. So can a pair of scissors. So can a plane. Just because we can't do it doesn't mean that a fish can do things I can't do. That doesn't mean to say it's more intelligent. And it isn't artificial intelligence. What we're seeing is much more prosaic. What we're seeing is digital automation, which is a fabulous new discipline and saving us a huge amount of work. Now, they built robots. I remember a robot, what was the name of that robot? Went to the Financial Times.
Oh, yeah.
And one of their senior editors took it into the editorial boardroom, and they were all coming up and greeting it as though it was a pop star. It's a bloody doll. I mean, it's a big doll, and it's a doll with a rather nice voice, but it's a toy. There is nothing that it could do that was remotely useful, except, of course, entertain the readers.
Yeah, Country Boy says, I could listen to this man all day. Well, I'm afraid that's not going to be possible, Country Boy, because we close at 9 o'clock. But having said that, I'd already said to Brian yesterday, oh, Brian, you're one of those people that I suspect we're going to be bringing back again and again and again. And the whole point
bugger.
Oh, yes. Don't think you're getting away that easily. Once you get in my net, you're in trouble. But the whole point about today really was to sort of introduce you to Brian, because I just like his take. It's just different, you know, and I really like the idea of questioning experts. And one of the things that you said, Brian, which I found quite alarming and disturbing, was that while the original book was huge, it was...
dear me.
Are you all right there? Have you got a cold?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yes. And while the original book was huge and world renowned and everything, et cetera, when you did your new book, not one newspaper has reviewed it. Why is that?
Well, that is interesting, isn't it? You see, one of the things that the book said was that experts would come to sort of dominate the world, and we'd all believe that they were authorities. Now, when the book came out, everybody thought, wow, this is an amazing quiz. And all the national newspapers and scores, might have been hundreds of regional newspapers reviewed it. And they all said, you know, you've got to watch out for the expert. Brown Ford's right. He's put his finger on something here that might happen. We must watch out for it. Now, when the new book came out, incidentally, you did have a correspondent just now typing in, tell him to stop typing and get online and buy the bloody book. But when the new book came out, of course, the editors saw it and thought, but this is going to question the public's view of experts. This might cause them to doubt the scientific consensus.
Right.
So nobody reviewed it, not a single newspaper. The reviews online are enthusiastic. They say things like, you know, this is the Bible of our times and it's a brilliant book. Bless you, whoever said that. But the point about it is that the regular press wouldn't touch it with a barge pole because it has come true. The people now have to respect what experts say and believe them implicitly, and you're not supposed to challenge them. Yeah. So not a single newspaper published a single review. There were a couple of magazine articles here and there, and I wrote a few as well. But the reaction to the book was in such an amazing contrast to what happened in 1971.
Yeah, look at that. What are your thoughts on that, Sean? I mean, this is a world that you understand, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've also been naive growing up to think, oh, the experts have said, so I'll just move on. And it comes down to the lab in the white coat and the dentist advert, and he's, you know, and but I was looking into some of the stuff you've done as well last night, Brian, and the plagiarism in science is what caught me.
Oh, yes.
And
well, there are two things. Firstly, plagiarism. I mean, I've been plagiarized all the time. And I get regular emails from people who say, I've just seen a paper in a journal and somebody's plagiarized my work. They've stolen my discovery. And I write back and say, if you're in the public eye, if you've made an impression, people are going to steal your work. It's actually the ultimate compliment. If in science you haven't been plagiarized, it's because you haven't done anything decent. The moment you do, some miserable two-faced, dishonest bastard is going to come along and steal your work and claim it's his own. In China, I think they say the majority of papers are plagiarized. They're not original. I mean, I've been plagiarized by people. I've just recently had big program of research that we've been doing for 40 years, picked up and claimed as original by the Royal Society of London, no less. It's extraordinary how people do it. Oh yes, they steal your stuff all the time. But it is, at the end of the day, the ultimate compliment. Because if somebody steals your research, it says two things. The first is that they think your research is brilliant. And the second thing is that they can't do anything better themselves. So it is a compliment, isn't it, really?
But this whole thing about we can't question the science is absolutely ridiculous, because that's the whole point about science. You must be able to question it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although you've got to be careful here, because there is a view that, oh, it's just a theory and everything might change. There are obvious facts. There is a view that there's no such thing as a fact in science and things might change. No. It is a fact that the sun is nearly 93 million miles away from us. It is a fact that the sun is extremely hot. It is a fact that global warming is happening. I mean, you can see it. I remember when I first met my wife, I took her to Kew Gardens to show her a tree fern growing in the palm house. And we looked at it in amazement. I said, yeah, that's what you get in the tropics. We have them in the garden now. We've got an olive tree growing in the garden. We've got palm trees. We've got bananas growing in the garden. Anybody who says that global warming isn't a fact is absolutely blind to reality.
Ooh,
but yes,
I definitely have to bring you back on.
You mustn't always trust everybody to believe everything just because it's couched in long words and an expert has said it. It might sometimes be wrong. And I've spent much of my life in disproving what other people have said.
Well, I look forward to bringing you back on, not least because I want to talk about global warming with you. I want to talk about jabs with you. I want to talk about masks with you. We're going to save them for another time. And again, It's really interesting because I discovered that Brian yesterday he's a straight talker and we don't always agree on things. That's the whole point about this show, is to bring on people that I don't always agree with, but I've thoroughly enjoyed having you this morning, Brian. It's been an absolute pleasure. Come back and join us again and have a brilliant week.
You too.
Take good care of yourself.
Both you look after yourselves.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Take care.
Everybody,
Bye-bye.
Professor Brian Ford.